We're going to talk about how do you build a championship team? How do you evaluate the team you've got, etc. I'd like to talk to you about team building this particular session. I've already shown you the basic organizational chart that you need. But by doing this, you develop, it helps you develop team spirit, positive team spirit, and avoid conflict and miscommunication, etc. There's a principle I've taught for years that's real simple, and that is you can have only one tiger per hill. If you put two tigers on the same hill, they'll fight for dominance. They'll scratch each other and everything. But if you can develop two hills, they'll sit there and just purr. The same is true with your organizational structure. If you got two people assigned to the same thing, that was my job. No, I thought that was your job. Well, no, that's not my job. That's your job, kind of stuff. But if you can be very, very clear on what I'm asking you to do, it reduces the tension. It reduces the conflict pretty dramatically. And we've talked about this, that in every organization, day one, it has certain functions in it, even though the founder's name is in all the functions. And when the organization becomes 600 people, they're still basically in the same basic categories. It just gets more complex. You've got a board, a senior executive, administrative services, communication services. I illustrated it with church, which most people attend somewhere. There's another function off to the left, and that's CFO, the Chief Financial Officer, which is basically off here. And this is often a person who relates to the administrative services, but in a smaller organization, it is typically not a full-time paid staff person. It is a person who is what I call a creative money person. And basically ask yourself this: of all the people you know, who is the most creative money person you know? That you know personally. Could be an uncle, could be someone you used to work with, but everything they touch tends to seem to turn to gold. When you get that person in mind, see them as your creative money person. And whenever you need to make a major financial decision, go to lunch or breakfast and say, I'm making this decision. Would you consider listening to me and giving me perspective on it? If you have a relationship with them, they won't mind. And they can often save you hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars. And this is something you need day one in your organization. When you're up to about 20 million, you can hire that person full time if you want to. But it's basically a person who can help you make wise financial decisions. Now, anyway, you need a person like that. You may not call them a CFO, you may just call them a friend, you may call them a creative money person, but that's a person you really need on your team. Now, Peter Drucker taught me this statement. He said, Bob, the role of an organization is to maximize the strength of the individual and make their weakness irrelevant. The second I heard it, I thought, just bought that as my own personal philosophy. That what you're doing in building a team is to try to find every single person's unique strength. Of all the things they do well, what do they do best? And then have them do that as much as you can get them to do it. A lot of times when I ask people, of all the things you do well, what do you do best? And they tell me what they do best. And I say, now, what percentage of your current position requires that strength? You know what the average answer is? Get your own answer in your own mind in terms of what your greatest strength is. What do you do best? Not your character side, not who you are or what you're trying to be, but on your do. What do I do best? Of all the things I do, what do I do best? Got that in mind? In just a word or two for your own self? And then what percentage of your current assignment requires that strength? You got a percentage in mind? You know what the average answer is? 30%. Does that fit anyone here? The average person just says 30%. In other words, most people in most positions, or many, I'd say up to 50%, feel like the position I'm in, what they're paying me for, I'm only using 30% of my potential. So I'm saying what I would encourage you to do is look at the people who are doing this, whether they're paid or unpaid, and ask, what is their strength? What is their potential? And how can I use it more effectively in that position? There are 4 levels of thinking. Level 1 is, I guess everyone's basically like me. You know what? Most people you'll ever meet in your life, that's the assumption they're making. And if they couldn't do it, they assume no one could do it. If they can do it, they assume everyone could do it. And if they're good at it, they assume everyone's good at it. A lot of pastors think this. They think, well, anyone could do what I do. The answer is no, they couldn't. If they could, they wouldn't want to. So if you're making the assumption, look, if I can do it, anyone could do it, you are absolutely dead wrong. Rethink what you're thinking, because it will limit your leadership for the rest of your life. Because you'll assign things to people that be easy for you that they can't even consider doing. They'll feel like a failure, you feel like they failed. And it wasn't because they aren't capable, it's that they don't have the strength you have in this particular area. My guess, some of you have had that experience already, where you've assigned something to think, that's easy to do, I could do that easy, therefore they could do it easy. You give it to them, they can't even begin to do it. They fail at it, they flub it. They just can't do it. And you think, well, that's so simple, why can't they do that? Why don't they do that? It's because they're not you. It's easy for you, but not for them. Something they may find easy, you couldn't do at all. So the basic assumption that's wrong that a lot of people make is that if I can do it, anyone can do it. Wrong. Because the assumption is everyone's like me. They aren't. So the second assumption is, well, I guess everyone's not like me. Some people say, well, I guess they're not. Not everyone's like me. The third level of thinking is, you know what? No one is like me. No one had my dad and mom. No one went to school where I did, married who I did, had the work I've had. No one is like me. And the fourth level is it's okay to be me. And let them be them. So what you're doing is you're trying to figure out who is it that has unique strength in these areas that you've got as an organizational structure. And how can you let them do what you couldn't do or wouldn't want to do? Or you say, I could do all of it. I say, yeah, you could do all of it, but do you want to do all of it? No. So what can I let them do that they can do that, it's like, that's a strength for them. It's what you're doing in building a team, is finding out who is uniquely strong in that area. Even though I wouldn't want to. I've got to build a team that can do it, or I'm stuck with it. I'll tell you a quick story. I have a friend and client named Larry DeWitt in California, and he was a pastor. He took the church from, I think, 29 people to about 4,000. He was a very effective pastor. And he told me this story. He said, Bob, when I first got started, I saw everyone that shook my hand going out of the church that was a newcomer. I think, I've got to tie them like they're a string. They're floating through the church. Unless they get tied down somewhere, they'll just drift out the back. So I'd say, hey, what are you doing on Friday? Can we have lunch? And I'd tie them to me. So I looked down, they had 1,000 strings tied to me or whatever, He said, I can't keep doing this. He said, I've got to. So he said, now I looked at what's that string and think, who in the congregation? I think, hey, would you meet with this person? I tied them to you. And he said, then I got where they come through the line. I'd shake their hands, talk to them a little bit, look around, say, hey, have you met so-and-so? And I'd tie them to them. He said, now I've got 3 or 4 strings on me, but I don't have a lot of strings on me. I say, part of what you're doing is looking for what are your unique strengths and what is their unique strength, and how can I let them be involved to what they could do. And then it's also important to see this, that a mouse doesn't need very much skeleton. A mouse, a little mouse, doesn't need very much skeleton. But an elephant needs 250 pounds of just skeleton alone. In other words, the larger your organization, the more you need the organizational skeleton to keep it in place. If your organization is 1 or 2 people, you don't need a lot of people doing this and that and the other thing. You just do what you do, and that's fine. But as you're growing an organization, it's really important that you begin seeing the value of an organizational structure, and you get the right people in charge of it, and you get it so that the structure is growing as well as the attendance. Another thing I would encourage you to do is to never again in your lifetime say the word volunteer. Not once in your lifetime do you ever want to say the word volunteer again, or let anyone on your staff say the word volunteer again. It's like see it as a swear word. And if someone cuts you off in traffic, you can say volunteer. But see it as almost a swear word. And let me illustrate why I would say that. Let's say you are a member of 2 different organizations, and one of them sees you as a volunteer, and one of them sees you as a team member. Even though you're not paid, they see you as a part of the team. And it's a cold blizzard night. The snow is coming, the rain is coming, it's wet, and you just don't want to get out of the house. But these 2 organizations have a meeting. Which one of the meetings would you go to? The one that sees you as a volunteer, or the one that sees you as part of the team? It isn't are they a part of the team, it's are they paid or not. This is a person that's part of the team, they're just not paid. They're not full-time staff. They're part-time staff, or they're a part of the unpaid staff, unpaid team. I'm saying see everyone here, even though you are just starting the organization. Let's say you got yourself and that's it. Yourself and your mate, and you're the only people on the team. And you've got these functions you're doing, and you've got people who are willing to do it. They're willing to help with it, but they don't want to be called a volunteer. You don't want to call them a volunteer. Then see them as a part of the team you're building. They just don't get paid. Okay? Now, let me ask you to do this. Put on your paper there the name of the person you report to. Just the first name of the person you report to. Okay, just write it down, the person you report to. And then your own name, and then the name of every person that reports directly to you. Everyone that reports to you, just put their name down, whether they're paid or unpaid. I'm going to show you how to evaluate your entire team very quickly. Now, on a scale of 1 to 10, give everyone a rating, where 10 is, for whatever reason, that's the right person in the right place for long term, meaning there's 3 to 5 years, this is exactly the right person, exactly the right place, is a 10. And 1 is, I should have gotten rid of them a long time ago, I don't know how to get them gone. Give everyone a rating, 1 to 10. Typically, you can evaluate your entire team in 30 seconds or less. And what you're going to find is, if I gave you the rest of the day to tell me why, the logic of why that person is or why they aren't, and then I ask you to rate them again, you give them exactly the same score. In other words, your instincts know who's doing the job and who isn't. You already know that. And you know how well they're doing it and how poorly they're doing it. And so then you can go back and you can say, all right, these are the green members of the team. Then these are yellow. It isn't very yellow, but these are yellow. And these are red. And you can stand back and see, how healthy is my team? It just tells you instantly. In a minute or less, it will tell you of your entire team, how healthy is it? How many greens do you have? How many reds do you have? And how many yellows do you have? You can tell how strong your team is in less than a minute. Now, let me alert you to the fact that you'll never get where you hope you're going with anything but an all-green team. You'll never get to the championship without an all-green team. So what I'd encourage you to do is set in your mind a date with yourself at which you'll have an all-green team. Now with the reds, the people you've rated 5 or under, if there are any of those, 5 or under, then you have to do one of three things. You have to redefine what you're asking them to do. Maybe you're asking them to do too much. You redefine what they're doing. Or you reassign them to somewhere else in the organization. You say, well, you've been in Christian education, but I think you'd be far better in pastoral care. You reassign them somewhere. Or you may say, Bob, I can't redefine it. I can't reassign them. I say then it's time to release them as soon as you possibly can. Even if they're paid or unpaid, to release them from that position if they're not doing the position. Now, you have to ask yourself, if it's an unpaid person, is it better someone than no one? That's obvious. But if it's better someone than no one, then you don't release them. But if you say, no, in this case, they're hurting me, they're hurting the organization, and I can't bring someone else in because they're in the way, then releasing them from an unpaid position might be the best thing to do in terms of growing the organization. So 0 to 10, that's what you do. 0 to 5. 6, 7 is yellow. What you do with them is this, that, again, the principle, I think I mentioned earlier, is that nothing is measurable. Nothing is clarifying as measurability. Nothing is clarifying as measurability. So with a 6 or 7 that you put down on your paper there, and even if you rated yourself a 6 or 7, here's what you do. You basically say, okay, here are the 3 measurable things I want to get done in the next 30 days. I want to get done, and I want this person to get done. There's if they're yellow, and I don't know whether they're green or red. I don't know if they're the right person in that place or not. And it may be that they've been there 6 years, and you still don't know. You're just sort of on the border with them. I say, turn them either red or green as soon as you possibly can. And you do it with measurability. You say, okay, person, here are the 3 measurable things I'd like you to do in the next 30 days. Here are the 3 measurable things I'd like you to do in the next 60 days. And here are the 3 measurable things I'd like you to do in the next 90 days. All 9 are measurable. So I know, again, it forces me to clarify what I really want from them. Because maybe I haven't made it clear what I was really asking of them. Maybe I haven't been clear in my own mind what I wanted from them. So by doing that, it forces you to clarify your thinking and communication. It clarifies them to know what you're really expecting. One of 2 things will typically happen. Number 1, they will say to you, oh, that's what you expected me to do? Oh, no problem. I thought you were expecting her to do it. I'm happy to do it. 30 days, check, check, check. 60 days, check, check, check. 90 days, check, check, check. It's all done. It turned bright green. It was a matter of miscommunication. The other response you can get is, you expect me to do that? There's no way I can do that. You may as well get someone else. I may as well be out of here. It's like, you expect me to do that? You're kidding. I can't do that at all. They say, well, if this seems overwhelming, then I think it's probably time for me to free you to do something else somewhere else. Do something somewhere else, because this is what this position really requires. And turn them either red or green. And then if the people you rated 8, 9, or 10, which is the person you report to or yourself maybe, then you say that the profound question becomes not, am I getting my money's worth? That's the most typical thing you're asking is, am I getting my money's worth? Meaning if I put in X number of euros, am I getting 3 times that number of euros value? Is what business would say you're supposed to ask about people. That's the wrong question. The right question is, how do I maximize this unique person? How do I maximize myself? How do I maximize these people? How do you maximize a person? You maximize them by focusing on their greatest strength. So you have to define their greatest strength and let them be in that strength more than 30%.